Dan. So just an embarrassment of riches when it comes to some of the earnings names next week. Which results are you most excited for?
Yeah, look, I think it's get the popcorn out going into the weekend, for next week. You're going to have robust earnings. I think front and center is going to be Microsoft. I think that's the one to me. In terms of AI revolution, you're trying to understand what these use cases look like, what that expansion. I think Azure growth is really off the charts. Microsoft's really one front and center. Obviously another one is going to be Amazon. I think that's one where right now investors are doubting them, but I believe they're seeing a lot of strength when it comes to AWS conversions toward AI. And look, that's the theme. We're in a fourth industrial revolution. The hyperscalers are just so well positioned relative to this market. It's going to be a validation moment next week for big tech, and tech stocks go much higher, in my opinion, to year end.
I am curious, Dan. I don't know if we're going to hear it specifically on the earnings statements and calls, but do you think we're going to start to see more of these investments that we saw over the past few months, not necessarily just from the government into these companies, but some of the other companies investing in those companies?
Oh yeah, look, I think, and I can tell you, there's clearly some concern about circular finance and whatever. I disagree. I think you're building out a new economy from an enterprise perspective and consumers, and you're going to continue to see the strong get stronger. That is going to play out. You're going to see more and more partnerships because you ultimately have more spending in the next 2 years than you've had in the last 10. And that's why I think, we've talked about it in that AI party. It's still 10:30 p.m. and that party goes to 4 a.m.
Until 4 a.m., I certainly will be asleep. But I hear what you're saying. And Dan, to go back to your point that the strong get stronger here, and certainly you think about all the spending that's going on, fueling some of that strength, does that imply that, the cast is pretty much set when it comes to that party, or could you still see some new entrants here?
Oh, I think you have new entrants because the second, third, fourth derivatives playing out. I mean, when you think about software names like MongoDB, Snowflake, following clearly like the Messier AI, Palantir, and others, cybersecurity right now is on the outside looking in, but I think they're going to be very strong in terms of the AI revolution and that ultimate ripple effect, names like CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, among others. So I think that's really going to be the theme. I mean, even though it's been dominated by big tech and they will continue to lead tech higher, I think it's the second, third, fourth derivatives playing out. And that's what this earnings season is going to show. It's a validation moment. It's a pop the champagne moment for tech stocks. And I think the bears, they're going to continue to be in hibernation mode, talking about a bubble because they can't see AI in their spreadsheets.
I am curious, Dan. I mean, you're coming to us not from the U.S., but you've been traveling overseas. And I am curious as to what the AI trade or the AI build out, if you will, looks like from the other side of the world. I mean, we always talk about it through the lens of the U.S. companies. But what's going on overseas?
Yeah, in Asia here for 2 weeks. Look, I think part of it is that investors are trying to figure out how do you play it in the U.S., but do you also play it in China? Whether it's Alibaba, Baidu, and others. I think there's definitely much more of a risk on appetite, but I think investors, especially in Asia, are trying to understand, okay, as this plays out into about U.S.-China negotiations, who are going to be some of the clear winners on both sides? Because you can't just play it in U.S., you also have to play it in China as well. I think, Alibaba continues to be our top pick there. But then it comes down to just core demand. NVIDIA chips right now demands 10 to 1 in terms of demand to supply. And that's why that godfather of AI, Jensen NVIDIA, we're going to be looking ultimately at $5 trillion market cap for NVIDIA going forward.